there'll be lots of ways to increase how much you can save for retirement in 2023. In addition, there's something called the Secure 2.0 Act that you need to know about. And here to talk with me about that is Dana Anspach from Sensible Money. Dana, welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Good to be here.
Oh, it's always great to have you here. And it'll be great to have you walk us through what folks need to know about how they can increase how much they can save for retirement in the new year.
Yeah, it's a lot to walk through. We have all of the normal increases in contribution limits, as well as the Secure Act 2.0 that came into existence right at year end, keeping all of us financial planners busy with, I believe, over 100 changes that can impact retirement savings. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Provides job security for everyone in the world of financial services.
It certainly does.
So where do we start?
Well, I think where we start is with the normal increases to what you can save. So a lot of people contribute to their 401k each year, and they do that through salary contributions. And those limits on how much you can put in are indexed to inflation. So if you are age 49 and under, you can put in $22,500 to a 401k plan. You can put up to $6,500 to an IRA. And if you have an employer that offers something called a simple plan, kind of a simplified version of a retirement plan, you can put up to $15,500. You can also put up to $3,850 as a single filer into what's called your health savings account if you have access to that. Now, those limits are all increased slightly from 2022, but in addition, if you are age 50 or older, you are allowed to put in a catch-up contribution. So with the 401k, that allows you to put in an extra $7,500. So you could put a total of $30,000 into a 401k plan. Now, if you're 50 or older. Now, if you're doing that through payroll, sometimes what you need to do at the beginning of the year is go in and adjust those dollar amounts or percentage contributions to make sure that you hit the match. With the IRA, the catch-up remains at $1,000. So if you're age 50 plus, you can put up to $7,500 in. If it's a simple plan, the catch-up is $3,000. So if you're age 50 plus, you could put a total of $18,500 in. And if it's the HSA, the catch-up age is different. It's 55, and so you could put an extra $1,000 in for a total of $4,850. And there's one other type of plan called a SEP. Actually, there's several other types of plans, but the one other main one that we're going to talk about is a SEP, a simplified employee pension, again, that many self-employed people have, and it allows you now to put up to $66,000 in.
Right. And it's important, I think, when people are thinking about these contributions that there's different deadline dates for some of them, the year end for the 401k, but the tax filing deadline
Correct.
for IRAs.
So with your IRA contributions, you have your tax filing deadline. For certain employer plans, there can be employer contributions. They actually have until their tax filing deadline plus extensions to get that in. So sometimes we'll get questions from people of, I haven't seen my employer match or I haven't seen a profit sharing contribution. Well, your employer can have an extended deadline sometimes to get that portion in.
Right. And something that's often overlooked is the saver's tax credit.
So
Tell us about that.
Credit right now, if your adjusted gross income as a married filing jointly is less than $73,000 or as a single person less than $36,500, you will actually get a tax credit for contributions that you might make to an IRA or to an employer plan. And I believe it's a scale. It depends on your income, but the maximum credit is up to $4,000. So it's a pretty significant credit. It is still in effect. Now, part of the Secure Act 2.0 changes that are coming are that in a few years, they're going to phase out that credit, and instead it's actually going to become a match. So instead of a tax credit, there's a matching contribution you could get from the government. But you don't have to worry about that yet, because right now and for several more years, the Savers tax credit is the way it works, and that's going to stay in place for several years.
Yeah, so that's a good segue to talk about Secure
goodness.
Act 2.0.
So I can't remember what year it was that they did this to us a few years ago, where they actually changed the RMD age to 72, but it always seems like it's at the last minute, and over the holidays all of us are just busy re-projecting things for clients and updating our models and trying to figure out how this impacts and everything. And this was just absolutely insane. There's so many changes, and they all have different dates as to when some of these changes phase in or become effective. So what I thought we might do is just talk about the changes that are taking effect now in 2023.
That works for me because it would be a lot for me to keep in mind everything that's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years with
Oh my
with
goodness,
this
I
legislation.
know. So where I thought we'd start is with the RMD, the required minimum distribution age. That is one of the biggest changes that, of course, is going to impact people who are already of retirement age or getting close. And so they have pushed the age at which you must start taking distributions from qualified retirement accounts from age 72 to 73. Now, the way that they've done this is there's no one new will start taking required distributions this year, meaning normal retirement distributions. If you inherited an IRA, you may still have to take a required distribution this year. If you were already taking required distributions last year, you will continue. If you turned 72 last year, you had the option of waiting to take your first distribution until 2023. And so you would still have to do that because your required beginning age actually occurred last year. So those are some of the exceptions of people that would be taking an RMD this year. But anyone new, that's turning 72 this year, you do not start RMDs. You don't have to begin taking them now until 73. And then later on, they're going to phase in an age 75. But we don't have to worry about that right now. That's for people born 1960 or later. So right now, the RMD age will now be 73.
Yeah. So one planning tip, you and I have talked about this in the past, is this notion of the Roth IRA conversion period. So this gets extended by a year for some people.
We talk about that opportunity zone when someone retires but they haven't yet started Social Security or required distributions. Now, Social Security still begins at 70. Maybe someday they'll push that age back so you could wait till 72. But right now, that's not the case. But with the RMD age getting pushed back, it does give you a slightly wider window in which you could potentially convert IRA assets to Roth IRA assets at perhaps a preferential or lower tax rate.
Right. So speaking of Roths, there are some changes there we need to know for 2023
and
too?
increased access to Roth accounts with the Secure Act 2.0, which I'm excited about. We love Roths. We love the opportunity to save money tax-free. But there's really only two that are taking effect now in 2023. The first is that Roth Simple IRA and Roth SEP plans. These usually impact either small business owners or somebody, in the case of a simple plan, who works for a small business. Roth after-tax contributions are now allowed. Now, if you elected to make a Roth contribution, then the income is included on your tax return that year, but from that point forward, it grows tax-free. Now, just because they are allowed, it may take a while for the software that runs these plan documents and the actual documents themselves to be amended to allow for that, but legally they are allowed now. And same employer contributions, such as a matching contribution or a non-elective contribution to a 401k plan, if it's immediately vested, can now be, you can elect to have that go into your Roth. In the past, it was all pre-tax. Now, if you elect to have it go into your Roth, again, now your employer will still get the tax deduction. It's still going to show up on your tax return as taxable income, but now it's going to grow in the tax-free portion of your account. And once again, just because that's allowed, it doesn't mean that you will immediately see that available. Software has to be updated when you log into your 401k plan and how it, allows you to choose certain options. They're going to have to program all of that. So it may be a while before it trickles in and we actually have it accessible to us.
Right. So quick follow-up on the simple and Roth SEP. With Roth IRAs, there's an income limit. Will that probably won't be the case with the simple Roth and the
So
SEP
when
Roth?
you are accessing Roths through employer plans, those income limits do not apply. And that has actually been the case for several years, even with the Roth 401k. And amazingly enough, we do encounter many people who aren't aware of that. So even though their employer offers the ability to make Roth 401k contributions, they might think, oh, I can't do that, I make too much money. But that's not the case. The income limitations only apply to Roth IRAs, but you can make Roth contributions to many 403b plans, 401ks, and now the SEP and the Simple, and there is no income limitation. So it's increased ability to save tax-free.
That's a great opportunity for many. What about something called QCDs, the Qualified Charitable Distribution
So the
Options?
qualified charitable distribution allows you, starting at age 70, now that age hasn't changed, even though your RMDs now don't start till 73, you can contribute up to $100,000 directly to a charity from your IRA, and the amount is not included in your adjusted gross income. So it's a tax preferred way to make these charitable contributions. I actually just had a meeting with someone today who often makes charitable contributions. They are just turning 70, and I was explaining this to them. I said, even though you don't plan on taking IRA distributions yet, this is a way that you could more tax efficiently make these charitable contributions that you're already making. So that's been around, and that hasn't changed, and actually starting next year, that $100,000 will get indexed to inflation. But what has changed is this ability to do, I believe it's a one-time $50,000 contribution to a certain type of charitable trust. Sometimes they're called charitable remainder unit trusts, charitable gift annuities. And typically the way those work is you would make this gift, you would get a tax deduction. Now in this case you don't get the deduction, but the income's coming right out of your IRA, so it's not included in your adjusted gross income. The maximum amount is $50,000, and you take an income stream. Usually the charity will have kind of a more established charity will have a set program that allows you to do this called a charitable gift annuity. And that income that comes back to you has to be at least 5% of the principal amount. So the income comes back to you. It's reported as taxable income each year, but you have gotten some type of a deduction that's actuarially calculated as to this remainder benefit that will go to the charity. So it's an advanced strategy. It can help reduce your taxes. It can help reduce your IRA balance if you're worried about the tax impact of RMDs later. And of course, it can help the charity that you're contributing to.
Yeah, that's great. One part of the Secure 2.0 Act that I'm fond of is that it's changed your ability to access the accounts because of emergencies or other factors.
Yeah,
Talk
I
about
think
that.
that's great. I think one thing that prohibits people from starting to save for retirement when they're younger is it seems so far away. And of course, we talk about the fact that an emergency fund is a priority. So there is an additional access for what's called a qualified disaster recovery distribution. Now, during COVID, they had allowed the special distribution up to $100,000, but you could repay it over 3 years. So they're basically making that provision permanent, but the maximum limit is now $22,000. And so if you were, in a disaster area, you could take up to $22,000 penalty tax free. There's also additional access if you have been diagnosed with a terminal illness. So if a physician certifies that the illness is reasonably likely to result in death within 84 months, that would qualify you. And so you would be able to access your retirement funds without paying the 10% penalty tax if you were under age 59 and a half. There's also the ability to increase the amount of a 401k loan or an employer plan loan you could take against your plan up to $100,000 if you were in a designated disaster area. So those all increase access in a few years. There's some other provisions that are coming, but right now those are the things that take effect in 2023. And then there's this strange rule in the plan, in the 401k law, that says if you were age 55 or older when you leave your employer, you could actually access your 401k funds penalty tax free as long as you leave the funds in the plan. Well, that provision has applied to certain public safety workers at age 50. And so they are expanding that definition of who falls under a public safety worker qualification to include private sector firefighters, state and local correction officers, and anyone who's been with their employer and has been a plan participant for 25 years or more and then separates from service. So it does give more people access to their retirement funds even if they aren't yet age 59 and a half.
Yeah. So when I think about retirement accounts, there's a penalty waiting for everyone around every corner, but they've made some changes there that remove some of those
It's complicated
penalties.
though, right? Did you fall in one of these disaster areas? Do you have a terminal illness? There's other provisions that allow you in certain hardship situations to access your funds. They're making it a little bit easier to certify, self-certify what a hardship is. So yes, it's increased access overall. Now, digging through all of those rules, that's why you often need a plan sponsor if it's your employer plan, someone you can call and say, hey, does this provision apply to me? Let me walk you through and let's find out if it actually applies.
Yeah. Annuities are also part of the Secure 2.0, and there's more options that people have now.
It's interesting because people still seem to often have this negative sense toward annuities, and there's a lot of different types of annuities, and I understand. I see certain annuity products that have high fees sold in situations where I don't think they're appropriate, and it appears that the primary motivation was for the salesperson to earn a commission, not necessarily it being part of a thoughtful retirement distribution plan. But in general, many retirees' biggest concern is running out of money. And annuities that guarantee lifetime income are one of the most effective ways to solve that problem. You are exchanging a lump sum, a portion of your savings, for a guaranteed lifetime income stream, and they are very, very effective at that. And so I see that we would probably see continued legislation that makes it easier to implement annuity type options within 401k or retirement savings plans, and that is what we're seeing here. So there has been access to what's called a qualified longevity annuity contract within your 401k plan. You could put up to I believe it was 125,000 or 25% of your plan balance. They've eliminated that 25% limit and increased the amount you could put into this type of product up to 200,000. And so that's one way they've increased the ability to implement an annuity type product within a 401k plan. They've generally said that if you have already annuitized a certain type of IRA account, it used to be that you couldn't aggregate the distributions from that to count toward your required minimum distributions from another retirement plan. So now you can. So again, that's a provision that makes annuities a little bit more favorable and a little bit more easier to manage and calculate in retirement. And then there's something called a 72T payment stream. So if you wanted to access retirement accounts before age 59 and a half, there has been a way to do it where you had to take out substantially equal payments. But there were a lot of restrictions that made people cautious. If I annuitize part of that, is it still okay? And so without getting into all the details, they've basically made those rules a little bit more clear and a little bit more lenient, so it makes it easier to set up these types of payment streams and access funds in those situations.
All right. And then, last but not least, at least as it pertains to this year, there's some changes for small business owners.
Small business owners can defer up to 10% of the gain of their stock sale to an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan. So if you're a small business owner thinking about your succession plan and setting up an ESOP was part of that, this is a favorable, more tax favorable provision now. And then several provisions that apply to small businesses that are setting up some type of retirement plan for their employees, which is great. So there's an enhanced startup credit that can help cover the administrative costs of setting up a new retirement plan. There is the ability to have household employees now eligible for a SEP. So if you have household employees, the long-term employees, and you would want to make contributions for them, you can. And then for small businesses that are setting up, 401k plans, I know, we would tell people, look, if you think you want to make a contribution, we have to get your plan set up by the end of the year. Well, no longer is that the case. So they're now allowing you to set up a retroactive plan. So it could be, up to my tax filing deadline this year. I meet with my CPA and they're like, man, I wish you would have, set up a SEP or a simple or 401k plan. Well, now you can do that retroactively and contribute for the prior year. And then there's I don't know the details of it, but there's an additional credit if you are hiring military spouses. So many 401k plans make you work there a certain length of time before you can contribute in a retirement plan. And if you are the spouse of someone in the military, you might move around every few years, and so it can make it really difficult. You don't get the chance to participate in those employer plans. And so there's now a credit that makes it a little bit more favorable for employers if they do allow these people to participate more quickly in those retirement plans.
Yeah, so this is a pretty exhaustive list, and it only covers the changes for 2023. There are more changes that we'll talk about that are coming for 2024, 2025,
yes,
and
so,
beyond.
I mean, it's just nuts. It's like with every section, there's certain changes that take effect right now, and some that take effect next year, and some the year after, all the way out to, the RMD age doesn't really take effect till 2033, the age 75. And so, yeah, it's a lot. I think it's going to keep us busy for many years to come.
All right, well, we're always appreciative of the fact that you're sharing your knowledge and wisdom about all things related to retirement, Dana.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.